12 o'clock on your Tuesday afternoon now. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head still along with you here on the game. And once again, for the second day in a row, the firecracker himself, Scott Hamilton, joining me for the next couple of hours. And, oh boy, Scott, do we have some news to talk about today?
The firecracker. Wow.
Listen, man, yesterday, the 2 hours we did, felt like I was on a roller coaster ride, man. We went here, there, and everywhere.
It went fast, too.
It did.
It was a lot of fun. But, yeah, we got a lot to get to, man.
We do.
Got a little rundown thingy, I'm sure. I'm sure you got a list that you like to stick to. But
well, listen, I'm flexible. I'm flexible. I can. We can divert from the list, too. It's okay.
Okay, man.
So you did have to bail out of here yesterday at 2 o'clock for good reason, because you did have to get over to the stadium announcement, which we've talked about a lot today this morning, but you have an article up about it on the Post and Courier website in reference to Blanchard Machinery, 5-year deal with South Carolina. We don't know the number figures, but it is being phrased as the biggest investment into the Athletic Association this school has ever seen. So I imagine there's quite a few commas in that for this 5-year deal. And again, in today's world of college sports, these are the things that you have to do to not just compete, but survive at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. And you know what? It could have been a lot worse. I mean, it's a couple of logos on the field. It's not the end of the world. The sky isn't falling. And there'll be people who are clutching their pearls and so aggravated that they've done this, that they've broken this seal now. And now they're going to expect it to look like, Dale Senior's number 3 with all kinds of stickers and things like that out there now. It's not going to be like that, Tyler. They're going to be very judicious. They're going to be very prudent about what they do as far as signage and sponsorships and all that. But the bottom line is they've got to get the revenue. You've got to have the money. That's the only way you're going to compete these days. It's the only way you're going to be relevant these days. And to get the revenue, you have to be willing to change and adapt. And that means putting logos on the field, and you put logos on the field.
And I think because Carolina is in the first handful of teams to do this, specifically in the SEC, Tennessee has it, Arkansas has it. Anybody else that I'm not thinking of that already has this? What's that? Vanderbilt has it. So a couple of teams have already kind of started here, but you don't see it yet at Georgia. You don't see it yet at Alabama or some of these other schools that I imagine in very short time, maybe even before the season starts, they'll all be working out their respective deals. I do think the biggest hurdle is trying to analyze or trying to figure out what the value of that space is, and that's going to vary team to team depending on how many people are watching your games, how many people are in the stadiums, and those kind of things. So nailing down that number figure may be the last hurdle for a lot of teams, but I imagine no later than next year, probably all the schools in the SEC at the very least are going to have some form of logo at the 25-yard line, and then you'll just be able to say, hey, you're one of the first ones to do it, and you kind of help start the trend.
Yeah, and that's what Jeremiah Donati was brought to Columbia for. I mean, he was brought to Columbia to modernize the athletic department, at least with the way it goes about as a business. And don't forget, Tyler, his background. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was the athletic director at TCU, but he worked for Lee Steinberg.
Yep,
super agent, super sports agent. And what are agents all about? Well, they're about getting contracts for their players, their athletes, but they're also about getting endorsement deals. And that's what this is. It's the same thing. It's in the same vein. Here's what you get, and here's what you're paying. And he's able to think outside the box. And I hate that phrase. I hate it so much. But he does. He's able to think outside the box when compared to traditional administrators, guys and girls who have come up through the ranks and they only know the university system and the way to do business like that. And look, we're seeing it more and more across the board. I mean, think about Brett Yormark. Brett Yormark's background is as a marketer and a branding guy for the NBA. Mm-hmm. And it's his forward thinking and his thinking in an untraditional way that's helping the Big 12 stay afloat and actually be a pretty darn good conference, pretty entertaining if nothing else. So that's I'm not saying Jeremiah Donati is like Brett Yormark. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but it's that kind of thinking that's necessary to to be able to succeed and be able to compete.
Well, and again, we're still in this new era when it comes to revenue sharing and NIL and all those kind of things. But we've known for a long time, and the TV contracts speak for themselves, these properties, these brands of college football teams and universities are so darn lucrative that if you're a company associated with that, you're going to reap a lot of benefits. And this is something a texter brought up in the last hour that I thought was a really good point, that they felt like it was easier to digest given the fact that it's a local company with the family's all alumni of the university. You heard the Blanchard family speaking yesterday at the podium with Jeremiah Donati about how this deal came together, what they're excited for, and all this kind of stuff, as opposed to, again, if Walmart just came in and slapped its logo on the field and it was just kind of this nameless, faceless group of people that decided in the best interest of money for Walmart, they wanted to be associated with South Carolina, which again would still benefit you financially, but I think people can accept it a little bit more when they feel like there is that local connection, like a Blanchard, or even like in Arkansas with a Tyson, foods company that again is associated with Arkansas, much like Pilot Flying J is with Tennessee and the Haslam family. So when you have these connections, again, it's not going to satisfy everyone, but I feel like that's a little easier to stomach for people at the end of the day and as time goes on.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you could sense that yesterday. I sat right behind the family in front of the stage they had set up for this event, and you could tell they were excited. Not that only because they were about to have this landmark partnership with a Power 4 school, but it was their school.
Yeah. That
was the thing. And they were talking about how the company is statewide and how they went to high school locally, how they went to South Carolina, how they, and think about this, Tyler, they've been stroking big checks to the university already.
Sure. Yeah.
Nothing this sizable. They're pumping money in.
I imagine if we were able to dissect the NIL dollars that have come into the school in the past 5 years, they probably played a pretty significant role in that.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And it's also pretty darn cool to see all that heavy equipment now lined up in front of the stadium. They had like dump trucks and inloaders and all this other stuff. And I'm like, wow. But I found it interesting, though. And I asked this question. They've got the $350 million renovation project that's going to begin after this season on Williams-Brice Stadium. I asked them, is part of this deal, does it include Blanchard Machinery being the official provider of equipment, blah, 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 blah? And they said no. They said no. They said the contractor, the person, the company, the entity, whatever, tasked with doing the renovation has already got all that lined out. And if they want that business, they'll have to go earn that business, yada, yada, yada. So I found that interesting because it was my understanding when I first heard about this that it was going to be some form of trade, that there would be a cash component to it, obviously, but also the rest of it would be offset by helping with the renovation, providing equipment for the renovation, so on and so forth. But no, this is obviously just a straight trade deal, and that's what makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, we don't know the exact number figure. Is that playing close to the vest to try and not allow some other school to go out there and get an even bigger deal than what you have, much like we know with contracts in professional sports that, hey, quarterback A just got paid this much money. That means the next quarterback up is going to get even more than that. Are you smart to not let these numbers get out to try and potentially have leverage or potentially have an advantage over your other schools that might be doing this too?
I don't think so. I think it's more of a personal thing at this moment. I don't think the numbers are going to come out. It's a public university.
Sure.
We're going to find out what's going down, but I think it's more something to do with the company. I know the patriarch of the company, he passed away, I think 3 years ago. So they're still reconciling some things, personally and professionally regarding that. But I don't think it's any kind of gamesmanship. Now, here's what I did find interesting, though. I found it interesting. I spoke with a couple of different sports business people, and they told me they thought it was worth about $1 million a year.
Okay.
That was the value of it. And you're looking at 7 home games, 2 logos. It's hard to quantify exactly what it's worth, but they said maybe $1.5 million a year. Mm-hmm. And then they used an example, for instance, Safe Light has signage at the Horseshoe in Columbus, Ohio.
Correct.
They told me that deal was $3.5 million a year for that. And that's field sponsorship. So this doesn't include actual field sponsorship. It's not Blanchard Machinery Field at Williams-Brice Stadium or anything like that. It's just two logos down there, and they're visible logos. That's prime real estate. But the people I spoke with who do these kinds of deals for a living, they said it was about $1 million a year. So take that over 5 years, that's $5 million. And then there's an option to re-up where they re-examine the deal, both sides, after 5 years. And the terms could change a little bit then too.
Yeah, and again, when you're in need of every single dollar at this point, year over year over year, having that security of this now 5-year deal could potentially be more down the line. We'll have to see there. Create some stability, which again you need. And again, I think a lot of people are accepting to the point of like, hey, I may not love this, but I understand if I want my favorite school to be competitive, they're going to have to do this to try and keep up. And again, getting this money does not guarantee you a national championship, does not guarantee you playoff appearances, but I feel a lot better about your chances of being competitive and getting to those places by having these kind of deals as opposed to not having them.
Well, and you know, you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter if it's $500,000 or if it's $5 million a year. That's money that they were not getting before, because there's also expenses that have never been out there before. You know, the revenue sharing alone, 20.5 or so, that money's got to come from somewhere. There's got to do something to offset that. But there's also the never-ending war, and we've talked about this for decades now, but it's really becoming more of a thing, the facilities race. And I'm not just talking about an indoor facility. I'm not just talking about a locker room. I'm talking about for the fan, for the person who comes to the game. It's always what we hear now is improving the game day experience. And this $350 million renovation is a big part of that. This money will go towards that. It's going to help offset that. It's going to help with hospitality areas. It's going to help with other amenities to bring people out to the game. So this is money that otherwise wasn't there. And Jeremiah Donati went out and got it, and God bless him. I'm wondering what's next. I mean, now, he did shoot down, and I kept asking this question, will they have a sponsor for Williams-Brice Stadium? Will they be changing the name? He's like, absolutely, positively, no, that's not happening. But they are going to look at other venues, like the court at Colonial Life Arena, over at Founders Park. You know, there are going to be opportunities there to get additional sponsorship dollars. So this is the way it's going to be going forward. Yeah. But I'm wondering what he does next with regards to football. I mean, is it a patch on the jersey?
Sure.
I don't know. And then does the SEC, have they signed off on that? Do you know? I mean, has there been any talk about, signing off on having patches on jerseys, corporate logos? We
were discussing this earlier because LSU submitted this request to the NCAA in the offseason many, many months ago. Much like their Faison situation, I don't believe they've gotten a ruling on that as of yet, a yes or a no. So it's at least being discussed. And again, I don't see why they would deny an extra revenue stream for something as simple as a jersey patch. So if it's not already been accepted, it's certainly going to be coming in the very near future. I want to get into what Donati did have to say about the stadium naming rights, as well as what other avenues they could be exploring here in the very near future as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head, he is Scott Hamilton of the Post and Courier. Ed Burr producing on the other side of the glass on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton with you on your Tuesday. Reminder, Coach Beamer speaking at the top of the 1 o'clock hour. We'll have that for you here as we will each and every Tuesday throughout the entire 2025 season. Quick reminder, though, if you haven't heard, starting next Monday, August 18th, the game expands into Charleston. WIWF 96.3 HD3. You'll be able to hear the game across the state in Columbia, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and Florence as well. You can also listen to us on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming on at The Game Radio TV on YouTube as well. As again, we just simply make it where you can't listen to impossible not to listen to us because we're just quite frankly everywhere. Just looking forward to that. One big thing from yesterday, as Scott alluded to a moment ago, in reference to questions being asked following the Blanchard partnership announcement, was the naming rights to Williams-Brice Stadium, which I think is a very fair question to ask in terms of what the future could that be as you're looking for additional revenue streams. However, cut number 5 here, Ed, Donati did shoot that down pretty quickly yesterday.
No, it's going to always be named Williams-Brice Stadium. So, you know, as far as our other venues, you know, those are kind of next up, and we've had conversations there, but we're starting with the big one first.
Now, he says it will always be Williams-Brice Stadium. That doesn't mean you can't attach something to that and call it blank at Williams-Brice Stadium or Williams-Brice Stadium with whatever field. So there are ways around even the phrase that he said right there. But for those worried that the true namesake of the stadium will eventually go away, that does not seem to be the case.
You like the guy who asked that question. He's really awesome.
Yeah, I knew I had to work that in at some point today.
I followed up with him, though, for clarity after the media conference. I wanted to make sure, you know, I'm like, listen, that you're not going to change the name, right? And he did kind of dance around. I mean, field, things like that. But, you know, I have to think, if you're going to name the field something, shouldn't you name it Steve Spurrier Field? I mean,
that would make the most sense. I mean,
it would.
Would you want to name it the same thing that Florida names their field, though, or do you want to be different?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Could you name it George Rogers Field or something along those lines?
I think Spurrier did more for the program. I think you have to. I mean, are there other instances where one person is honored in two schools with almost the same thing? I mean, are there two Bear Bryant fields? I mean, there's not. There's a Nick Saban in Bryant Dennehy, Saban Field at Bryant Dennehy. Is that what it's called now?
That is correct. It's Saban Field at Bryant Denny. Well, I mean, obviously, Bear's name is in the stadium name itself, but I don't think.
Didn't know if A&M had something.
No, nothing with A&M. Nothing with, because he was at Kentucky too, right? Or was he was
but that's Kroger Field.
Yeah, that's Kroger Field. No, I don't think any. That's a good question. I don't think any coach has had two fields named after him across college football. Which, I mean, hey, that would be special. And not unwarranted, certainly, but I don't think that's happened before.
I just, though, you know, the biggest thing that you have as an athletic director that's sponsorable is the name of your football stadium.
Right.
The name. I mean, the naming rights are a whole different breed of cat, man, than everything else. You're talking way different dollars. And to say that is off limits, that's comforting to know. But it's also comforting to know that, God forbid, the athletic department gets in trouble. There's something happens. There's a massive deficit. They can break the glass and get that out and sell it if they ever needed a quick influx of cash. Well, it would be a lot of money.
That's my thing is like, where is that line of like, well, this is just too much money to pass up if, again, pick whatever huge company you want to, like a Kroger that has their deal with Kentucky's field. If they came along and said, hey, we want to purchase the naming rights to Williams-Brice Stadium, you know, we'll pay you $15 million annually, which that's really, really high. But you get my point here. How do you say no to that? Like, how do you go, no, sorry, we want to keep the name. You're just turning down quite literally almost your entire revenue, share per year if that was the case. Again, that's a little bit more of an extreme example, but I imagine there's a lot of companies that would pony up several $1 million to have the naming rights to that stadium that, again, I don't think you should completely close the door on.
Is 15 million that high? I mean,
well, so
when you consider the sponsorship of a PGA Tour golf tournament is going to cost you around 20 million.
Yes.
And that's for 1 week.
That is for 1 week.
1 week. This is I mean, you're the stadium for 365 days a year. You have 7 home games. You have other events. You're getting television exposure. It's the hub of the community. The hub of the community. The hub of Columbia. And I might be speaking out of turn. Is Williams-Brice Stadium. It is.
Yeah. No.
Everybody knows where it is. And people can see it from the road. I mean, it's the hub. And 15 million, probably 15's probably about the going rate. It might be even higher.
It's tough because there's not, and we'll get into this at the end of the hour, a little bit of trivia. There's not a ton of stadiums out there that have naming rights sold at this very moment. Like Kentucky gets a little under $2 million per year with the Kroger deal. So, I imagine you could probably command more than that if we're being honest. But let's say it's in the neighborhood of $3 to $4 million or $5 million. Like, still, that's a significant amount of money annually that you would be saying no to if and it's not just random company comes up and says, hey, I want to buy the rights to your field, your field name or your stadium name, excuse me. It's negotiations back and forth, and a lot of times it's the athletic department reaching out to them and finding these potential clients and all these kind of stuff. So, but if you get what I mean, that's a tough number to turn down, especially when quite literally every penny counts in today's world of college sports.
Again, I'm looking at my notes from my conversation with my contact yesterday, one of them, in that Safe Flight deal, $3.5 million for the horseshoe,
just for the stadium, but not for the stadium, just for the field.
Just for the field.
Yeah, and because they're Safe Flight Field at Ohio Stadium.
Correct. So they pay $3.5 million a year for that deal. So imagine what they could have gotten if they wanted to have it be the nationwide horseshoe.
Yeah.
I mean, Nationwide's a Columbus-based company.
Sure.
They could have gotten a lot of money. And I truly think, and I'm going to send a text out to some people. I'll try to get an estimate on it. But I truly think they could get probably $12 to $15 million if they were to sell the naming rights for the stadium at large.
Yeah. Now, if you do the field thing, you can still preserve the name itself because, again, it's just blank field at Williams-Brice Stadium, and the vast majority of people still just call it Williams-Brice or Willie B or whatever. I think when you get into the territory that makes people mad is if you just completely drop the name and inserted whatever corporate sponsor you were going to have at that point. But again, according to Donati's words yesterday, that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case, but I do think you're keeping your mind open in terms of hey, field or Williams-Brice Stadium presented by whatever these, I don't want to call them secondary type of deals, but
no, they are secondary. You're absolutely right. They are. It's the difference between presenting sponsorship and title sponsorship.
Yeah, that's true. So again, you said it kind of danced around it when you were getting clarification. So it does seem like those options are still on the table, which is good because again, you should never close the door on any revenue streams, legal ones at least, at this point.
At the end of the day, I just don't care. I really don't care what it's called. I don't care who's sponsoring it. I don't care. It's not going to impact what happens on the field.
Sure.
It's going to have absolutely nothing to do with it. So I don't care. And if it helps the university run more efficiently and helps the athletic department be more competitive, go for it, dude. Go for it. I don't care. It does not impact the play. I do not care.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And I think as time goes along, you get used to things, right? Whether it be the logo on the field. If we eventually get to jersey patches, that's something we'll just all accept in time, as we've done with Major League Baseball and the NBA and sports like that. I'm surprised the NFL hasn't gotten to the point where they're putting patches on their uniforms either, but I'm sure that's something that could be on the horizon, with the next collective bargaining agreement, right around the corner and all those kind of things. But it's the world we live in. It's college sports these days, and just gotta keep up with the times, or else risk falling behind.
I see you wearing a plain T-shirt. You don't have any logos on it.
I have it's an Under Armour T-shirt.
Is it an exclusive deal? You're not allowed to have.
No, but
the logos.
I am open to exclusive deals if somebody wants to do one with me.
What if I want to get like an iHeartRadio?
I don't think that one will go over too well. We'll try and avoid that if we can. The halftime show continues. It is Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, Coach Beamer coming up at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock as he'll give his Tuesday presser on what's going on at camp and obviously reacting to the scrimmage that we saw or did not get to see, that we heard about at least, from Saturday, as well as, again, we're 19 days away from getting the season started. We're talking about money in sports and obviously, as I drop my microphone, the new revenue streams in college football that Carolina is trying to position themselves well with the Blanchard deal from yesterday. And there's no better program, I think, right now that's an embodiment of trying to take advantage of this new era of college sports than what Texas Tech is doing. For those that are not familiar, Cody Campbell, a former offensive lineman from the Mike Leach era at Texas Tech, is a oil billionaire. Like, if you watch Landman, he's essentially Landman, right? And he is pouring a lot of money into Texas Tech to try and help them become a legitimate competitive football program in the national landscape. Hasn't happened quite yet, but they've gone out in the offseason and done a lot of work in the transfer portal. They got another 5-star kid out of high school, just the other day, and we're waiting to see those results on the field, certainly. I did see, I don't know if you've kept up with this, they've really been leaning into this on social media. So their main athletics account the other day, what do you call the oil things that go into the ground? Are they called derricks? What are those called?
Yeah.
So they quite literally have an oil derrick on campus now, like as a statue to pay homage to the money that's coming in and helping fund this thing. Like, they are not shy about this. They're not, trying to blind us, say, oh, no, it's not really this. Like, no, we have a lot of money. We're using a lot of money, and we're going to win because of it.
I have no problem with it, man. Own it.
Sure.
Own it. And, kids, you think athletes don't love that? I mean, think about Shedeur Sanders showing off his watch.
Sure.
It's all about status symbol. And if you have something like that positioned on your campus, basically pumping money is what it symbolizes.
Yep.
I'm going to be a part of that. I'm just wondering, though, from a football perspective, Joey McGuire, who's done a pretty good job since he's been there, right? Joey McGuire.
He's been fine. I mean,
yeah, he's been fine.
He's been fine.
He's Texas Tech.
Yeah, what he has done at Texas Tech is perfectly okay at Texas Tech, where he's floating just above 500 after 3 years.
And he's done it with marginal talent. Now they're going out presumably and getting big time players. Mm-hmm. What's he do then? But I'm wondering this, though. I mean, the thing we're going to learn about most, or at least initially, will be how is his eye for talent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Are they buying the right players? Are they getting the correct ones? We don't know yet. Now, top 25 people seem to think they are.
Sure. Yeah. Here's the thing. If you acquire a lot of what's perceived to be high-level talent in the transfer portal and out of high school, you're going to have a pretty good shot at being good, right? Because, not all those guys are going to pan out and be superstars, but a couple of them probably will. Because, again, the numbers tell you that should be the case. My question is here, because this has always been my thing, right? I always feel like in college football especially, where development, whether it be for 1 year or multiple years, is still very important. I don't know if just money can outweigh average coaching. Not saying Joe McGuire's an average coach, but he's only been at the helm for a couple years. We don't truly know how great he can be. Maybe he just hasn't had the right talent up to this point. But if Texas Tech goes out there and is once again like 8-4 or 7-5, then it's like, well, you added all this perceived great talent, but you still gave the same results with them. Because at the end of the day, I don't think even a huge influx of money can outweigh just average coaching. Like, yeah, Texas has a lot of money. Ohio State has a lot of money. Well, guess what? They got really good coaches, too. And, I know Ryan Day was born on third base when he inherited Ohio State from Urban Meyer, but he's still a good coach. He didn't build the program, but he's been able to keep it on track. And, having the talent certainly helps. But, you gave him a great roster last year and you won a national championship with it. Same thing with Sark this upcoming year because Sark is a good coach and a really good offensive mind. I don't know if I have the same confidence in Joey McGuire and Texas Tech. They're just going to go out there, run the table, be 12-0, and be sitting in one of the coveted top 4 spots, when the playoffs start.
Here's something that you have to consider, and I've had a lot of coaches tell me this, and it's obvious when you look at it. you can go out and buy the best team. You can go out and get the best running back, the best quarterback, the best left tackle, so on and so forth. But do those guys play well together?
It's a question.
I mean, I can go out and get all organic groceries and try to cook a meal, but if you don't put the right things together, you just have a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Honestly, look at what happened with Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State is a prime example, man. Mike Norvell hit all the right things, pushed all the right buttons, pulled all the right levers 2 years ago. They had that fantastic season. Also helped you had Jordan Travis at quarterback. He masked a lot of deficiencies we didn't even realize.
Yep.
They went back into the portal last year, tried to replace him with DJU and a lot of other positions, and the mix was bad. The culture was not good. And that's a huge part of this. That's where your general manager, I think, has to come into play. I do, and your general manager, and now it's flat as far as the structure. The general manager's on the same plane as the head coach. You're seeing that more and more.
Sure,
but that's where they really have to communicate. And just because this left tackle, he's $12 million and he's the best one out there. Well, yeah, that's great, but you might be better off getting the $7 million left tackle because he's more of a team player or he does this or that. So
sure.
How we're going to learn a lot about Joey McGuire culture-wise.
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest thing first.
Well, and let's think about this. Let's say you do go out there with this talent and all the money invested in it, and you do only go 7-5 or 8-4. Think about how quickly you can get yourself on the hot seat, right? Now, yeah, maybe this year, not necessarily, but you don't come out of the gate winning next year either, then it's like, all right, well, this guy can't get it done despite the fact we're giving him everything that he needs. Well, let's bring somebody else in here. Like, you're opening yourself up as a coach to being on the hottest of hot seats in the blink of an eye if you're not deemed to be as successful as you need to be. And again, Ohio State and Texas, Ohio State last year had what was perceived to be the most expensive roster, won the whole thing. Texas has perceived to be the most expensive roster, and they're probably going to have a good shot at winning the whole thing this year. So if Texas Tech has that, let's say next year, then why wouldn't you think they'd have a shot at winning it too? And if they're not even making the playoff, then it's like, okay, what are we doing with this coach that can't get the most out of our talent?
Especially when you have the pressure of what softball did.
Yes, exactly.
Texas Tech softball.
Where that one player literally carried them to the national championship and almost won the thing.
And it made a difference. I mean,
it did.
They put the money in and all that. But there are other situations comparable to this. I mean, think about Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal.
Sure.
Brian Kelly at LSU. I mean, these guys are getting everything they need, and they're falling short, especially Lincoln Riley. I mean, it's shocking how far he's fallen from his first year there.
I don't think Lincoln Riley was too keen on the idea of ending up in the Big Ten because you have to play defense in the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 was kind of questionable. And I'll give him credit.
That's why he left Oklahoma to get out of the SEC.
It was, and then he goes to Southern Cal, and like, oh, by the way, we're going to go to the SEC the Big Ten in a couple of years. It's like, dang it. And I give him credit because they did make they finally fired Alex Grinch, who I think just had naked photos of Lincoln Riley somewhere that he was using as blackmail. But he finally made the defensive changes that he needed, and they got better last year. It wasn't like leaps and bounds better, but it was somewhat better. And we'll see how they can be this year because, yeah, for what they're paying him, the talent that they have on that team, the success hasn't been there.
They went to the playoff, 3 times? Oklahoma did?
Yeah, in a row.
Under Lincoln Riley?
Yep.
3 in a row.
With 2 Heisman Trophy winners mixed in there.
And Jalen Hurts.
Yep, and who could have won the Heisman Trophy.
Could have won the Heisman Trophy. And I want to circle back to him for a moment. We were talking about coaches who are honored in 2 places. You talk about a player who's beloved.
Oh, yeah.
In 2 places, Alabama and Oklahoma. Both love that dude. But Lincoln Riley, I'm trying to think okay, let's explore this for a moment.
All right.
What has been the bigger bust of that? I mean, there were some major coaching changes in 2021. You had Brian Kelly going from Notre Dame to LSU, Lincoln Riley going from Oklahoma to Southern Cal. I'm forgetting a couple. There were a couple more. Was that also Cristobal?
It may have been. That sounds about right.
Which
no.
has been the bigger bust?
Yeah, yes, it was because Dan Lanning, 2022 was his first year at Oregon because they opened up with Georgia that year. So, yeah, that would have been Cristobal going to Miami as well.
So which one has been the bigger disappointment of those 3?
Definitely Lincoln Riley. I mean, Mario Cristobal is not
12.
Mario Cristobal is not far behind. I don't know. I just feel like the standard for what Southern Cal was supposed to accomplish was a lot higher than Miami when Cristobal got there.
But Cristobal was handed so much.
It's very true.
So much. And, I'm thinking Brian Kelly, LSU was only a couple of years removed from arguably the greatest season in college football history.
Yep. And, well, his problem was he came in and had success too quickly. They went to the SEC championship game and haven't achieved those heights since then. You're supposed to get better as time goes along, not, plateau, which that's what's happened for Brian Kelly there. Well, we'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour real quick, though, as we head into this break. I do have some tickets to give away to tonight's Fireflies games to take on the Myrtle Beach Pelicans over at Segra Park. 2 family 4-packs of tickets right now for callers number 4 and 5 at 803-404-6100. Ed Bird standing by to take those calls and get you your tickets. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1. It's the halftime show, Tyler and Scott, on your Tuesday on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton along with you. Wrapping up hour number one again. Coach Beamer speaking at the top of the next hour. We'll carry that for you live as we do each and every Tuesday throughout the season. So we've been talking about money in college sports, again, with the new Blanchard deal being announced yesterday, as well as Texas Tech and quite literally all the oil money pouring into Lubbock, Texas for this upcoming year and years to come. I did want to run some trivia by you. Are you good with trivia? Are you a trivia type person?
I'm a trivia guy, man.
So across Power 4, I've counted 14 schools that have sold the naming rights to their stadium. Now, I'm not counting a place like Ohio State, where it is Safe Flight Field at Ohio Stadium. I'm talking about quite literally the name of the stadium is a corporate sponsorship of some type. How many of these schools can you name?
Wow. I'm thinking of I'm thinking of NFL stadiums now, like MetLife Stadium, Heinz Field.
Okay, do you want to start with the easier one? Do you want to start with the NFL? Now the NFL is a reverse question, where you'd have to tell me the stadium is not named by corporate sponsors.
Okay, so not named would be Soldier Field.
Yep, there's 3.
Lambeau Field.
Yep.
And there's 3.
Yep.
I was going to say the LA Coliseum, but that's old. It's way back in the day. That might be all I have.
Actually, I stand corrected because the 3rd stadium, I believe, has changed its name. It used to be just Arrowhead. Now it's GEHA Field. So I believe it is only 2 now with Lambeau and Soldier Field.
So I got those 2. Okay.
Got those 2. Now, again, 14 Power 4 schools have sold the naming rights to their stadiums. How many can you name?
That's sad. I don't think I can name. I mean,
listen, I was surprised by some of these myself in looking this up.
First Bank, Vanderbilt.
Okay.
That literally might be. I mean, Kroger. Is it Kroger Field at Commonwealth Stadium?
That's a good question. Let me see.
Because I that sounds like a field sponsorship, but I mean, because it was always Commonwealth Stadium before.
Sure. Let me see.
That's the name of it. That is Kroger Field. That's the name of it.
All right, so
Commonwealth Stadium.
I will knock them off the list. So we'll go 13 then.
No, it's Kroger Field. That's the name of the stadium.
Oh, the name of the stadium is Kroger Field. Okay, all right. So they're still on the list. So you got 2.
We got that. Got Vanderbilt.
Yep. I mean, you don't have to give me. You don't have to give me the name of the stadium. You can just tell me the school.
Arkansas.
No. That's still D.W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium.
Texas? No.
Nope.
I've been to Texas. I don't remember the name of the stadium.
It's DKR.
Dude, I'm at a loss now. I can't do it.
All right. So the other schools: Minnesota, Maryland, Rutgers, Pitt. They play where the Steelers do. Wake Forest, Louisville, Miami, Syracuse. A lot of ACC schools in here. UCF, Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona State are all teams that have sold their stadium naming rights.
Is it still Yum Stadium, or what was Papa John's?
For Louisville,
and it's Louisville.
Sorry, I know. I mispronounce city names constantly around here.
Well, that one kills me because people will go Louisville.
No, I'd never go Louisville.
It's Louisville.
Louisville. Let me see.
Louisville.
Let's see, Louisville is at L&N Federal Credit Union Stadium.
Yeah.
A lot of credit unions, by the way, I've noticed that is a pretty popular thing, which, again, Founders Park is a credit union down the street. But credit unions are a very popular name or a popular brand to be sold as naming rights for football stadiums.
I'm trying to think of the others. I mean, there are probably more than that at the G6 level.
Oh, totally. There's a lot at the G6 level. I didn't want us to be here all day counting them, so I just stuck it to Power 4. But, I mean, when you think about 70 Power 4 schools, you're talking about not quite in the neighborhood of 15 or of 25%, maybe around 20 or so.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, yes. That was one.
Wake Forest. I'm glad I remember that one. Kenan Stadium, still Kenan Stadium. Duke Stadium is fantastic, by the way. I love that place.
Yeah.
Love it. Played the Rose Bowl there in 1942.
1942, the only Rose Bowl not played in Pasadena.
Oh man, those are the only ones I know. Wake Forest because it's Truist.
Well, because it used to be BB&T.
Correct.
Yep.
And okay, we got that. We have, you said Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay. I mentioned Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And I mentioned another one. Wow.
I know it's an interesting exercise.
That is a very interesting exercise. So, and I like how you set it up by going in the NFL. It's the reverse.
Yes, because
it's only 2.
30 of 32 stadiums have some kind of naming rights to them, and Lambeau and Soldier may be the only 2 that can ever hold out on that. Again, their Arrowhead Stadium was very late to the party, but they're GEHA Field now. I always want to say GEA, but it's GEHA.
Miami.
Yeah, Hard Rock.
Hard Rock.
Yep. So
yeah, I'm trying to think of these where they double dip, where it's 2.
Yeah, it's just the 2 with Miami and Pitt. But I don't know. It's an interesting look at how many places have sold stadium naming rights. We'll get to Coach Beamer coming up at the top of the hour as his usual Tuesday presser during football season coming up next here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head live in studio here in Columbia. Shane Beamer not wasting any time. Let's get you out to the podium and hear his press conference.
Same. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate everyone coming out as well. I know it's been a minute since we met at the beginning of preseason camp. Great to be back in here with you guys. Good start to preseason camp. I know you guys have been out there for some of the practices. I apologize. I know a couple of the last media availability days, the schedule got a little off and we got behind one day. That's my fault, so I apologize for changing up on you and being a little bit late getting on the field. Certainly respectful of y'all's time, but off to a good start. Like the way these guys are working. Fun group to be around, no question about it. Had our first scrimmage last Saturday, another one coming up this Saturday as well, and then get into our mock game week next week as well. But been a good start, without a doubt. I know I'm going to get asked about Rasul. I don't have an update for you right now. He wasn't at practice Sunday. That wasn't because of his situation with the NCAA. He just got hit on his shoulder a little bit in our scrimmage on Saturday night, so it's nothing serious, just a bruise. But he was in the training room, or actually getting some extra work done on that Sunday night when you guys were at practice. But he was back out there today in good spirits. Hope to get some good news on that soon, but we'll see. But again, extremely respectful of the NCAA and the job they have. I know they're analyzing, analyzing other cases besides Sewell's, and appreciate them taking it under consideration or into consideration, and optimistic that we'll get some good news hopefully soon. But appreciate and proud of Sewell for how he's handling this situation and his mindset and spirit, as well as his teammates as well, and how they're helping him through this. Also, nothing really new injury-wise to report. Normal bumps and bruises that you've had in preseason camp. Nothing long-term that would affect anybody playing in game one, other than Kobe Saki-Prar, true freshman. He's got a lower body injury that will be somewhat long-term. Wouldn't expect him back anytime soon. And then Jackson Berger, who was really doing some great things for us from a defensive back and special teams standpoint, going back to the spring. The rate that he improved from last year to now is really impressive. He'll be out for a while also, but everyone else we anticipate that I haven't already said was probably going to be out long term. No one new to report other than those two. And optimistic that everybody will be good as we go into preseason or into game one. Big week coming up, obviously, with the last week of preseason camp. We start class here next week at Carolina. So this is our last real camp week, if you will, where we're doing afternoon walkthroughs and evening meetings and whatnot. That'll wrap up after this week. Also, I'd be remiss. I know I saw a lot of you guys yesterday over at the stadium. I'd be remiss if I didn't say how awesome it is, the partnership that we have with the Blanchard family and Rozier and Boyd and their family, and what they've done to support our athletic department and university and football program, having their name on the field this upcoming season and for future years. You talk about a family that loves Carolina, loves the state of South Carolina, loves this athletic department, loves this football program. If anybody's name is going to be on the field, that family is one that certainly it warrants their name being down there because of how much they bleed garnet and black and the kind of people they are as well. I know they talked about it yesterday in the press conference, how they lost their dad a few years ago. That was about the time that I moved here, or shortly thereafter, so I didn't know their dad, but Boyd and Rozier have become really, really good friends, golfing buddies as well, and really think a lot of both those guys as people, and excited for them, and really cool. You talk about somebody that is in the family business, if you will, myself, growing up the son of a coach, and then with Boyd and Rozier, and what their dad meant to them, and them being in the same business that their dad was, and then them being able to carry on his legacy and whatnot. Really, really happy for them. So kudos to them and Jeremiah and Wayne Hyatt and everyone here in the athletic department that helped get that done. Also, hope everyone has watch the Netflix series by now. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? It's been amazing feedback from so many people, retired coaches, current coaches, high school recruits, you name it. I mean, it's been awesome. The people that have reached out and commented on what they saw from us during the series. My only complaint is that they should have made it 12 episodes. People would have watched it, and there's so much content from South Carolina that didn't make the show that would love for that to be on there as well. But as I've told you guys before, it was successful for us because we don't have anything to hide. We are who we are. What you see on cameras, what you see off camera as well. So it was very easy to work with Netflix because we don't have anything to hide from in our program as well. And guys were just being themselves, and I'm glad people were able to see on the inside of our program. Having said that, I do have a statement to make. I think my wife is getting some undue criticism on the cookies that she makes. That's in episode 5, I believe. She's actually had people that have reached out to her on Netflix telling her that she's not cooking the cookies long enough. So much respect for the people that took the time to reach out to her to criticize her for her cookies. But the cookies are the freaking bomb, just so you guys know. And I've got my girls back. She's been making those cookies when I was an assistant coach. She's been making those cookies for my position group that I coached. So the running backs at Virginia Tech, or the tight ends at Georgia, or the tight ends at Oklahoma. And now what you saw in that episode was her making the cookies. She does it every Thursday for all the people in this building. So to the people that reached out to her on Instagram to criticize her and telling her that she's not cooking them long enough, come up here on a Thursday after practice when I put those cookies out and see how fast they're devoured and gone, because they're gone in about 5 minutes as well. And reach out to any tight end from the University of Oklahoma from 2018 to 20, or Georgia tight end 16 and 17, or any Virginia Tech running back if you want to ask about the cookies. So I got her back. Let me say that. The cookies are awesome. She's cooking them the right way. So with that, questions. And if you got Netflix questions too, fire away. If there's anything from those episodes also that you're not sure about or want to talk Netflix, glad to.
Shane, just wanted to confirm with the injuries, Desmond you and Jalen Kilgore, they're good to go?
Yes. They normal bumps and bruises. Dez will be fine. Got banged up in the scrimmage the other night. Jalen's got a little bit of a soft tissue injury on the lower body, but if we played today, they would play.
And also during open practice, we've seen Luke Doty out there, still working, catching kicks, catching punts. Is he still number 2 quarterback? And is it kind of getting to the time where it's like, okay, maybe stop that and focus solely on QB?
No, he's a really good football player. So yes, he's still the number 2 quarterback right now, and yes, he's continuing to work in a lot of areas. He's working on all of our special teams, all of them meaning our 4 core: punt pressure, kickoff return. He's working on all those. He's working in the return game. He's just really smart. He's a talented guy, and he's improved as a quarterback. So yes to all that.
Has Outer Banks called yet?
They have not. And it bothers me too. I was at Kiowa did I tell you all the story? I was at Kiowa 2 weeks ago, right before we started practice, and it was like an evening, and they filmed some of the episodes on the ocean course there at Kiowa. And there was a night I was driving back from dinner with my kids. I think Emily wasn't there, and I had taken the kids to eat, and we were driving back, and I passed a bus. I saw the bus coming in that morning. I was going to play golf, and normally you don't see charter buses coming onto Kiowa Island. So I'm thinking, maybe it's a golf group or something going out to the ocean course. But then later that evening, 12 hours later, I saw the same bus leaving, and then it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute, could that be cast or extras that they brought out on a bus? And then right after the bus, I passed all these trucks, Jordan, that said wardrobe and different things like that. I'm like, hold up, am I here at Outer Banks is filming a half mile from where I'm standing and they didn't call me? So no, I have not, but I'm getting closer if I was on the island when they're filming it as well, because I do know they were filming this summer. I saw that.
Maybe one more season, the Netflix people will come around.
Maybe. Win some more games.
Was there anything, we saw those Netflix cameras around the entire season. Was there anything that you watched the series man, I wish that was included, that wasn't?
Wish it was included?
Yeah, and didn't make it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think just time. I think there's so much content that they had. They were here, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, where they came in basically on Monday and they were here through Saturday. So you think about, they showed the LSU game and showed the Alabama week, and then leading up to the Texas A&M game. But there's a lot of content. You think about the amount of content that they could have gotten those 5 days. I think they spent some time with some of our players outside the building. I know they went, I think, trick-or-treating with Travian Robertson and his kids on Halloween, and with some of the players as well. Maybe we're out there on Halloween. That didn't make it. I think I told you guys they went to Hunter's flag football practice. Just stuff around the team specifically. Nothing that I can really think of. I just know that they had a lot of content that if, 7 episodes and we were featured in 3 of them. There's a lot of stuff that didn't make it that certainly would have been good, but they did a great job, don't get me wrong, and I know they had other teams they had to feature for sure.
Is there any aspect, I guess, of the game that you guys are better at this juncture of camp as opposed to maybe last year or other seasons since you've been here?
I would think situational football, and that's mainly just because Lenoris is a little bit older. Not a little bit. He is older than what he was last year. He's a year older. So, yeah, he knew that. But, in the afternoon, so we practice in the mornings, and then there's a break now that our players have where the coaches go and watch tape. And then in the afternoons, we do a walkthrough at 4. We start meeting, we do a special teams meeting and offense, defense meetings around 4. And then about 5:20, we have a walkthrough in the indoor that we do for about 45 minutes, and we always finish up the walkthrough each day with some sort of situational football aspect. And there were some days last year where having a new quarterback, whether it be Lenoris or Robbie, and it's their first time going through a lot of those scenarios. There were a couple walkthroughs where I blew a gasket last year, and because it wasn't getting operated and we didn't make good decisions. Not that we're perfect, myself included, because you're always learning and trying to be better in those situations. We did something today that clockwise that, I learned from as well. But I think we're so much farther along from that standpoint where Lenoris goes out there and we do the same thing that we did last year, and it's just, and he's just a machine at it. And Luke, really good. And, they remembered that walkthrough last year didn't go as well. And Luke kind of grabbed me afterwards. He's like, "We got your back this year, Coach. Like, we're good. We're so much farther along." And he's right. We spent a lot of time on it, just like last year. And we spent so much time talking about it throughout the season. I think we're farther along, at least at the quarterback position. Now, you still got freshman receivers and freshman defensive backs that haven't done that. But at least when your quarterback is more experienced, it goes a long way.
Are you bringing in some of those cookies next week for the press conference here?
We should.
We can get the word out quickly.
Yeah, we should. No, absolutely. You guys, the media is a powerful tool as well. So that's a good point. So, Emily, if you're watching, we need the cookies Tuesdays for the media as well.
Yeah, and in this day and age, how difficult is it, or for this team in general, how difficult is it to balance the camaraderie in a position room versus the competitiveness and desire for the snaps?
Yeah, awesome question. And something we've talked about in one of our very first staff meetings before we started camp, probably the day before the players reported. That was one thing that we talked about, John, as coaches, that we as coaches, starting with me, have to do a great job this year of managing those personalities in those rooms. Like, everybody wants the ball. And we got really, and I say that, and I told the coaches, like, we have more depth in my opinion, we have more depth at running back and receiver than we've ever had here since I've been the head coach. There's a lot of guys. We don't just point to one and say, here's, Xavier Legette and he's your guy or whatnot. There's a lot of guys that want the ball, which is great. Same thing at the tight end position, and there's only one ball to go around, but understanding that a lot of things. One, it's not all about stats. It's about winning football games. That's the most important stat to me. That supporting one another. We talk about celebrating others' success, because if you celebrate others' success, you get to celebrate more as well. So you see that out there as well. But we've got to do a great job throughout the season of that. Like, not every I'm just using an example. Mazio Bennett's not going to catch 10 balls every single week. There may be a game where he catches 10. There may be a game where he catches 0. but how he can affect the game in other ways. We've got to do it. We've really spent a lot of time just talking about that, but it just all starts in the off season, just the building up the team and the camaraderie and supporting one another and knowing that ultimately it's always about the team and doing what's best to win the football game each and every week.
What impressed you the most, if anything, from the first scrimmage?
Offense didn't turn the ball over. That was good. I look back at my notes from last year. They didn't turn the ball over in that scrimmage last year either. Now, y'all have heard me talk about we did in the season some, but that was good to have. I mean, we got, I think, 117 plays in the other night, and the year before that scrimmage was 108, I believe. So we got more plays, and there were no turnovers. Now, there were some plays, some throws where receivers got their hands on the throw and probably should have been an interception, but they weren't able to finish the catch. So that's good. I think when you can go in there and have 117 plays and not turn the ball over, that's a start, because we know how important turnover margin is in college football. And then just seeing young guys make plays. I thought we punted the ball well in there. We did some good things from a special team standpoint, and then seeing young guys being in the stadium for the first time and handling that environment.
Talking about the kicking competition specifically, obviously you've talked about how you try to make it the most high pressure situations as possible, but I imagine there has to be like an element of acceptance that for a lot of these guys that have no college experience yet, like you can't fully know what it's going to be like when they're actually out there, and how that plays into evaluating them.
No, it does. It's you do as much as you can. You try and make practice as loud and chaotic as you can. You can go in the stadium. You can go on the practice field. You try and put them in pressure situations. We had a deal today where it was a 2-minute drill at the end of practice, and we brought 2 kickers out to kick a game-winning field goal, and you just try and create as many different scenarios like that as possible, but still knowing, Lulu, whether it be the kicker or the receiver, it's just the defensive back that's playing in his first college game, or anyone. It's Lenoris. I mean, he's been in environments, but it's different when you go out there and you do it for real. But it's a challenge, and another reason that we should be able to have preseason games and exhibition games and all that against an opponent.
Kind of sticking with special teams from the start of preseason camp to now, how would you evaluate where every phase of the special team is right now?
I think we're moving along. I thought, like I said, we've punted the ball well, consistently. I feel like we have kicked well for the most part. Always could be a little bit more consistent. So pleased there. Return game, we've spent a lot on. We don't really do a lot of live, really none. Cover a kick and tackle. It's all, tag off or thud up. But I feel like we've made improvement in the return game, and we got some guys that can certainly run, that have size and speed and can cover kicks as well. So I'm pleased. This will be a big week for us this week as well, but they're really, really working hard. And it's awesome, though. You talk about culture and guys being able to see other guys do things. I mean, seniors, Brian Thomas, DQ Smith. I mean, those are 2 guys that are really doing a great job and working really, really hard on special teams. So it's a great moment when you're able to show those guys on tape doing that to younger guys as well. Because a lot of these freshmen, when they come in, they didn't come to South Carolina to be the left tackle on the punt team. I mean, I'm going to go play linebacker, and I'm going to go play the running back and all that. So making them understand, because a lot of them probably didn't play special teams in high school, and making sure they understand the importance of it, and really emphasizing to them. We've got 114 players on our roster right now, and we're only allowed to take 74 to SEC away games. So making sure those guys understand that those are hard decisions every week, who the 74 that we take are. And a lot of the times it's going to come down to special teams.
Thank you. What have you seen from Jackson Rep, and what kind of role could you foresee for him with what you're doing?
Yeah, Jackson's come in. I go back to last summer. His team came down in June, Phil, to our 7-on-7 camp. And in however many games they played that day, I think they played 8 games counting the playoffs. I mean, I bet you he had like 20 touchdown catches in 7-on-7. They couldn't cover him. And then we told him, you know what, come back to one of our individual one-day camps. And he went up against a defensive back in that camp that has committed to another school, and that defensive back couldn't cover him that day. So we're like, you know what, this guy's pretty good as well. He's undersized, but he's just got a knack for getting open and whatnot. And that's what I've seen. He plays hard. He catches the ball well. He gets open. And then he just got here. You know, he's coming off a little bit of a knee injury, so he just got here in the summertime. So as he continues to get in the weight room and develop, he's got a chance to, you know, figure in and help us down the road for sure.
Hey, Beamer, so you guys are coming off of 9 wins. You guys were, you know, yesterday ranked 13th, first time in 14 years. Could say these are the highest expectations you had going into the season, a season here. How is that different for you? How do you prepare the team, the program, and the players to embrace those higher expectations out of the gates?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be ranked high and have those expectations than not. I mean, as a coach, when you're not ranked high like we were last year, it's great because you can use that as fuel and motivation. But we want to be a team that's consistently ranked high in the top 10, top 15 going into every single season because it means we did some good stuff the year before and we're expected to do stuff again. And the best teams in the country year in, year out, they're in those preseason rankings every year. But those teams and what we're continuing to convey to our guys, and we've been talking about it since the beginning, is all that matters is just what we do from this point forward. If you had a good season the year before and your quarterback returns, you're probably going to be ranked pretty high, and that's what we are. Now, do I think we're a good team? Heck yeah. And we also have a lot of work to do, but as you saw last year, there's a lot of teams that, or every year, there's teams that are ranked in that preseason top 10, top 15 that won't be at the end of the season. And there's a lot of teams that aren't right now that will be at the end of the season as well. So just making sure that our guys understand every year is different, and we didn't really listen to it when everybody was telling us how terrible we were, maybe a little bit, but we don't need to be listening to it now when everybody's telling us how great we are, because you say, all right, we're ranked 13th, and we are, but I also know there's some prominent media members that put out their own little polls that we're not in their top 25. So we still got a lot to prove, and I know our players understand that and feel that too.
Mazio was in here talking about how Nick Harbor really gave up one love to chase after another. I just wonder what you've seen from him in terms of not only developing his skill set, but also his mindset now that he's only focusing on football.
Yeah, he's. I'm glad Mazio said that. I'm really proud of Nick. He shared a lot of that with some of the players the other night, and it's pretty powerful listening to him. But he did. I mean, people think, oh, Nick Harbor just gave up track to run football. Like, that's an easy decision to make. That's not an easy decision to make when you talk about a guy that had the real opportunity to potentially run in the Olympics last summer. And less than a year later, he decides to give up track. He's not just your everyday, I'm going to go run on the track team and have a good college career. Like, he could have run in the Olympics. And to give that up, to solely focus on football, that's hard to give up one of those loves. And what I've seen is him give up that love and then pour all that energy and emotion and just pour it into football. And that's what he's done with his work ethic, just on and off the field. He's improved so much. He works so hard, and he's got a great mindset about the way that he goes about his business. He's having fun out there. You can see it, just plays he makes, special teams. He's another one, to watch him cover kicks as well. So he's a big guy that can run, as you guys know, and he's worked really, really hard, and proud of him because that's not an easy decision to make.
Shane, what's the story behind bringing in Brandon Cunningham? And I notice he's listed as an athlete on the roster. What do you kind of envision out of him? Maybe not this year, but throughout his career, Carolina.
This is like upstate new arrival day with Brandon and Jackson Rep questions as well. Brandon was a guy another one that we had in our camp last summer. Really impressive, playing quarterback for his school, obviously. And we talked to him about, with your size and the way that you run, not saying that you can't play quarterback at the next level, but we really think you could potentially be a receiver or defensive back because you're tough, you're athletic, you're a good football player, you can run. He was adamant that he was going to be a quarterback, which that's great. So we really we continue to keep an eye on him, but he played quarterback, and that was kind of it as well, because I thought that was going to be what he chased as he went into college. And then I got a call, Jack, in the summertime from someone telling me that he had already been accepted into school here at Carolina, and he was coming to college here anyway, but he wasn't planning on playing football. So then I immediately called him up. I'm like, I think it was his graduation day, actually. And I called him up. I'm like, hey, bud, if you're coming here and you want to play football, we'd love to have you. That conversation that I had with you last summer has not changed. We think that ultimately you're a receiver or a defensive back, but we want you to, if you're interested, do that. So he jumped right in the workouts in June when he got to summer school, and he wasn't even planning on coming to play football. I think he was literally going to graduation and was probably planning on just having a heck of a summer hanging out in the upstate. And then a week later, he's getting his face blown off by Coach Day out here in summer workouts as well. So proud of him from that standpoint. And I do think long term, his position's probably receiver or defensive back, but he's working as a quarterback for us right now, just to have another arm in that room. Obviously, we've got Luke, we've got Lenoris, we've got Cutter, we've got Air, and we've got Jimmy Francis. But when you start talking about we get into the season and all that as well, we need more than, 5? We'd like to have 6 arms. So he's working as a quarterback right now.
Behind Lenoris and Luke, what's the quarterback competition look like to you?
Great competition. Cutter and Air continue to improve. The first thing I would say, Jordan, is both those guys have really improved since spring practice. You see the work they put in over the summer. They're having fun out there. They're moving around well, and they each are flashing as well, as is Luke. So Luke's the backup right now. Those guys are competing and pushing. They're all pushing one another. But we'll see. We'll certainly want to narrow things down as we get closer to game day here in a couple weeks. But those guys have all had really good moments and moments that they're young quarterbacks that you want to teach off of as well. But I'm excited about it. There's ability in that room, and they continue to get better.
I know you said from an offensive standpoint there were no turnovers on Saturday, but defensively, what'd you see from that unit in the scrimmage, and then specifically with the place kicking battle, what'd you see from those guys?
Defensively, I thought they did a good job of responding. Offense in the scrimmage the other night got off to a good start in their first 4 drives. 2 of them I thought were really productive drives. And I don't want to say defense was on their heels, but they didn't get off probably to as good a start those first 4 drives, but then it was cool to see them respond. We had a goal line period where the defense really responded and flipped a switch and then played well the rest of the night as well. So it was good to see those guys respond. And we played a lot of our young guys, a lot of the guys that competition's ongoing, but a lot of the guys that are returning starters did not play maybe as much as some of these young guys that we need to make decisions on. And then with the kickers, all of them got opportunities the other night, and all of them, certainly had some really good moments, and all of them had, a kick or 2 that they'd like to have back. We kicked a lot, but we're doing more of that now, just trying to figure out what that is or who it is as well. So pleased overall with that.
Oscar Adaway was in here earlier talking about how when he was still at North Texas, he was walking to class and he saw the Office video y'all had done. And he knew then that was a coach that you were a coach he wanted to play for. First, is that kind of something he's talked to you about? And also kind of what's that relationship like with Oscar?
Yeah, I love Oscar. He has told me that story, or I heard him tell that story to someone. He did not, maybe he did when we were recruiting him. I don't remember him telling me that. I heard that over the summer. That story as well, that he watched the little Office spoof that we put out, and said that I'd love to play for that guy, and I appreciate him saying that. It's pretty cool to hear. And then there's a relationship with him. He's just he's a wise old soul. He's an older guy that he's seen it all and has worked really, really hard. Really good football player who's gotten better in his last year of college football, and has great leadership skills, and testament to him. He's on the president or chairman of the SEC advisory committee, or whatever the official word is. I know I probably just butchered that, but representing all the student athletes in the SEC. So when we had our league meetings down in Destin back in May, he was down there, one of a handful of student athletes from across the SEC, that he was the president of that group, which says a lot about his leadership skills and the kind of person he is.
You and Coach Loggins obviously had a very tight relationship, worked very well together. So with Coach Shula, Are there similarities with how you two are working together? Do you have to approach him in a different way than you did Coach Loggins? How the communication, is it pretty much the same, or are there some differences?
I think it's been great. I think the dynamic, first of all, Phil and that staff room is awesome right now with all those coaches. It's a really good group of people in that room, and that staff dynamic with Mike and a couple of the new guys we've brought in with Ben Burris and Davis Cutter. It's a really good dynamic in there right now. And then Mike's been awesome. The fact that he's been a head coach before is very helpful. He and I can have conversations because he's been a head coach, and not necessarily telling me, sometimes maybe because if I deserve it, think about this, or what do you think about this? But there's great communication, very transparent, and I know everything that we're doing and why, and anything that I have an issue with, he's great about communicating. But it's been fantastic as well. He's big time, just as a human being, but then just as a coach also, and that with the offense, and then that whole staff dynamic, like I said.
Mazeo Bennett didn't get to play in the spring game, so just being back in that competitive setting with the scrimmages past Saturday, did you get to see anything from him in that environment?
Yeah, he made some third down catches, if I remember correctly. I know he did. He made one in the red zone for a third down, and that's just kind of who he is. He's a competitive dude that when the lights come on, he loves those moments as well. So it was good to see him out there competing, and he did some really good things for us last year, and we're counting on him to be one of those guys this year in that receiving room as well. Okay, thank y'all. Thank you.
All right, that was Coach Beamer, Weekly Tuesday presser. We'll come back. We'll talk about what we heard as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler and Scott Hamilton on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. You just heard from Coach Beamer and his Tuesday presser, which we'll have for you each and every week during the football season. A lot of things that he said there. I guess most importantly, defended his wife's cookies that apparently were subject to a lot of criticism. I've not gotten to that episode on the Netflix series yet. He said it was episode 5, but apparently people had a problem with the way she was making the cookies, and I guess were DMing her on Instagram trying to correct her. People these days, man, I swear.
That, wow. That's, but that happens though. I mean, if you're going to open yourself up for these things, you've got to consider it. And I'm wondering if going forward, if they approach it differently about allowing families to be involved.
Because of cookie criticism.
Cookie Gate.
Yeah, someone hashtag Cookie Gate in our live stream. I imagine that she's not the only family member of Coach that got criticized for something, but Coach Beamer gave his official statement on how good the cookies are, and apparently everybody in the facility can attest to that. When she brings them in each and every week. Just kind of going over the other notes there. If you were waiting for a phase-on ruling, unfortunately, it's still not happened yet. He said he's got nothing to report. He was out of practice the other day. That was due to being a little bit banged up. And Scott, here we are once again, just kind of standing here twiddling our thumbs, hoping something happens.
You know, my colleague David Cloninger at the Post and Courier, he brought up something really interesting. By the way, Faison banged up, has a shoulder issue, but he practiced.
Yep.
But would that not be the most chicken curse South Carolina Gamecock thing if the kid finally gets his approval from the NCAA and then he, God forbid, jacks up his collarbone or twist an ankle, something like that?
Yeah, that'd probably be pretty on brand. I feel like for how a lot of people feel like things go here at South Carolina. And again, sounds like he's fine, just a little bit of a precautionary thing. But yeah, that'd probably check the box for a lot of people with the chicken curse. Oh, he finally got eligible and he's out.
Yeah, and I will say this, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, man, but a shoulder for a running back, that's pretty serious, and they need to be very careful about how they handle that thing going forward, because those are the types of things that linger and never heal throughout the course of the season. And let's assume that he is going to be eligible either by being granted permission, a blessing from the NCAA or a court order or whatever. They need that dude to be healthy come November. So you need to just take your baby steps right now.
Well, and as a running back, whether in practice or a game situation, if you are dealing with a shoulder, collarbone, something up high like that, well, guess what area of you is routinely getting hit the most? Probably up high as you're trying to make your way through defensive linemen, linebackers, those kind of things. They're squaring up on you. So, yeah, there's really no hiding if you're still going out there and taking reps or playing in games when it comes to an injury like that, again, knock on wood, hopefully doesn't become more severe, whether or not we do get him eligible, because at the end of the day, he still wants to continue his football career in some capacity, whether it be go into the UFL or NFL or something like that after this upcoming season. And him not playing college football this year and also being out with an injury would severely hamper those opportunities as a guy that's already 25 coming up in October. So he needs to stay in as good a shape as possible.
I've watched a run. I don't know how many opportunities you've had to actually see video of him at Utah State, but there's a run circulating right now on Twitter/X of him against Boise State. The dude is slippery.
Yeah. Oh, he evaded a lot of tackles.
It's actually a really worthwhile video. I'll tell you what, I'm going to retweet it at Scott Hamilton PC, and this video is impressive. And this is the kind of guy. And we talked about it yesterday, Tyler, where I'm a top 25 voter.
Yep.
I've got South Carolina 12th on my ballot. It was hard, but I did it under the assumption that he would be available. Now, if he's not around, that's tough sledding, man. I mean, that's significant, because this is the kind of guy. He looks like an SEC running back. Put it like that. Let me sum it up like that. He looks like an SEC running back, and not having him available, especially after going through all this rigmarole, with the NCAA, that would be disheartening.
And I wonder, because we talked about it, Britt McMurphy left him out of the top 25. Reese Davis left him out of the top 25. I wonder how many people, if this wasn't an issue, if we just sat here right now and knew that Faison was playing as a guy that did have 1,000 yards on the ground last year for Utah State, how that would, because I don't know if everybody's thinking about it the same way you are in terms of, will he or won't he? I wonder how much that would sway the opinion of people and maybe have South Carolina viewed a little bit higher, knowing that you have a for sure thing at running back.
Absolutely. I mean, it's exactly what I did. I went under the assumption he will be available. If he's not available, I probably don't put them 12th on my ballot. I probably have them around number 20, number 22.
Yeah, which, again, I think is fair considering all they lost and the question marks that now revolve around running back, though still 19 days to go until we get into game number 1. We'll hit our break and come back, wrap up hour number 2, continuing on the conversation of what Beamer had to say in his presser there a few minutes ago. It is the halftime show. He is Scott Hamilton. I'm Tyler Head on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton wrapping up hour number 2 here on the game. Again, you just heard from Coach Beamer earlier on this hour giving his first, I guess, proper, at least where it's scheduled, Tuesday press conference of the camp season. And we'll have those for the next couple weeks leading into the start of the season. And then we'll have it for you each and every Tuesday as the season goes along. And I'm in the process of cutting this up. I'll try and get some of these mixed in the next hour of what exactly Beamer said on a couple of topics. But he was asked, because apparently, for what media has been able to view, Luke Doty is still working at things like special teams and possibly receiver as well, while still being the backup quarterback, and that doesn't seem like it's going to change. Cloninger is the one that asked the question, is he going to at any point kind of focus in on just being a quarterback in case he's needed, which of course we hope he doesn't have to be. But Beamer said, hey, he's an athlete. We want to be able to use him in a variety of ways. And, knowing Luke Doty and how he's been in his time here at South Carolina, I imagine he's a I don't say no to anything kind of guy. So if they're like, all right, today you're a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a punt returner, he's like, all right, coach, I'll go out there and do it.
He has been around a really, really long time.
He made the athletics all geezer list this year. Did you see that?
I did see that. And, I mean, we mentioned Zeb yesterday.
General Zeb.
His heart. General Zeb. Love that guy. Luke Doty was the starting quarterback that year, wasn't he?
He was.
If I remember correctly. So, what a journey for this guy. I mean, and when we think back on him 10 years from now, 20 years from now, try to properly position him in Gamecocks lore, what's his legacy? What's his legacy going to be?
I think especially in today's world of college sports where transferring and taking the highest bid is so prevalent, having a guy that willingly stayed here because he just loved the place and was willing to do anything for it, I don't know. And they're not going to build him a statue or anything like that, but I think he's a name that people are going to talk positively about for a very, very long time. Now, again, he had moments here and there when he was playing quarterback of, hey, that was cool, and hey, big moment here. But the results on the field aren't necessarily going to tell the story of Luke Doty as much as the commitment and love for the school will, I think.
Well, he's going to be looked at as being part of a very transformational period, hopefully,
sure,
in the history of South Carolina football. I mean, he comes in with Beamer. He's part of that initial team that got everybody excited, and we discussed it yesterday. Really changed the perception of the program from an entertainment standpoint.
Yep,
and being able to buy in a little easier to what's going on, and just how things are operating differently. He'll be looked at through those lenses. He's been part of a team that's beaten Clemson.
Yep.
Multiple times. That in and of itself is an accomplishment. Part of a team that's gone to bowl games multiple times, and perhaps even part of a team that makes the school's first ever appearance in the college football playoff. They're not going to put a statue up of Luke Doty. He's not going to be standing out in front of Williams-Brice Stadium, immortalized in bronze 12 feet high years from now. But I think there's a place for him in the story of the program. We just don't know exactly what it'll be, and what happens this year from a team level will go a long way towards determining that.
Well, and the fact that, again, he's willing to do anything and everything. And look, he's made a couple of catches as a wide receiver. So it's not like he's one of those guys that, was a quarterback turned wide receiver, then ended up going out there and having 1,000 yards or something along those lines. So it's not necessarily about those results necessarily. I think it's more about, again, kind of that willingness to do everything. And again, I think he kind of in a way matches Beamer's energy, style, and identity with what he wants this team to be. Like if Beamer was like, hey, if everybody could be a Luke Doty, he would go out there and win every single game, type thing. Like I feel like he's kind of that embodiment for what the Beamer era of Gamecock football is supposed to be, or wants to be at least.
Like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, exactly. Like he can do everything. And again, he was an athlete in high school and was brought in as an athlete, and he's kind of fit that mold. Now, again, we hope we don't have to see him at quarterback this year, because that means Sellers obviously in a little bit of trouble. But yeah, he's willing to do whatever.
Yeah, let's not even talk about it. I don't want to bring that into existence. I don't want to manifest it into reality.
Right.
Because if QB1 goes down,
they're in trouble.
I hate to lay the weight of things onto one person, but let's face it. I mean, it all rides on his shoulders. I mean,
sure.
There is no option of his level after that, especially since we have questions at the running back position right now. We have that mystery. So let's not talk about it.
Yeah, we'll try and avoid that as much as possible. Scott, appreciate you filling in once again today, and I'm sure I'll be calling on you again very soon.
Yeah, happy to do it, man. Have a good one, brother.
All right, you too. Hour number 3 on the way. It's halftime show here in the game.
Sandstorm. When you tell me that one of your best and biggest rituals as a college football program is a Dutch techno song that came out in 2000 that became popular for you in 2009, I'm thinking to myself, you need better traditions if that's the case. It looks cool, Josh. It sounds great. You know, it gets the fans on their feet. It gets them going. I can't buy into that. That is the thing that bothers me. Much like Kroger Field to Kentucky, Sandstorm to South Carolina encapsulates that program.
Darude. Let me gather myself. We're live. I don't want to say anything that I'll regret, or we'll get us thrown off the air. Listen, I don't care how it started. I don't care where it started. South Carolina owns that song now. So wherever it came from, whatever the country of origin is, Sandstorm is rooted now in Columbia, South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium. And here's what I appreciate about them. I'm going to speak for Gamecock Nation now. I'm going to hop on the cockaboose. It's not even Cocktober. And I want to tell you, we don't care what you think about our pregame rituals. We don't care what you think about our songs. We don't care what you think about our in-stadium environment. I guarantee you can't hear in here on third down, though. I guarantee you that. Even if they put us at noon, I guarantee you can't hear in here. South Carolina is the most underrated home field environment in all of college football, and there is nothing that the young men on either side of me in this 3-box setup on my Zoom screen could tell me to convince me otherwise. The end.
There's nothing.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you. Scott Hamilton had to skip out, so I'll fly solo with you for the next hour. Ed Burr producing on the other side of the glass. And a little bit later on in the hour, we'll get to a little bit of what Coach Beamer did have to say in that press conference there. Talking about a number of things. Again, we're still kind of in this weird in between of, still waiting for the season to start and what little availability we get or media gets for practice, having to go off of that in terms of determining what this team's going to be. Because, again, we still a lot of questions, rightfully so, with how much you lost from a year ago and how many guys coming in from the transfer portal are expected to play very big roles. But real quick, I wanted to remind you, if you've not heard, next week, starting Monday, August the 18th, you're going to be able to hear us out in Charleston. The game expands into Charleston on WIWF 96.9 HD3. So you can hear us here in Columbia. You can hear us in Myrtle Beach, Florence, and now Charleston as well. Also, as always, you can tune into us on the 107.5 The Game app wherever you are, as well as on YouTube at The Game TV. So looking forward to expand out into Charleston starting next week. Of course, the overall news of the day, and Beamer alluded to it as well there in his opening of his presser, is the partnership that South Carolina has with Blanchard Machinery as part of being associated with the stadium renovation project, as well as paying in to the Athletic Association over a 5-year deal. We don't know how much money that is going to be exactly, but it is being talked about as the single largest financial investment into the athletic department in school history. In today's world of revenue sharing and needing as many pennies as you possibly can to be competitive in college football, that goes a very, very long way. And as we've been talking about throughout the day, I can understand the, pushback, especially when you talk about a physical logo being on the field, which it'll be, Blanchard Machinery and the Cat logo, Cat Store logo at the 25-yard line. That will become a part of your viewing experience when you watch Gamecock football on TV or in the stadium. And again, you also move the palmetto trees, which people hold very near and dear to their hearts. I can understand a lot of the negative reaction to this. And I went back earlier and looked at when Jack posted a photo, Jack Belcher of Gamecock Central, posted a photo of the rendering that they had at this announcement yesterday that features the logos on the field. It was nothing but people's comments, stupid, I hate it, looks dumb, all those kind of things. But as time goes along, we all get used to it, right? And the one thing, and I had a couple people that reached out to us on the Firehouse Subs text line that made really good points. That's like, hey, if we want to be competitive and this is the way we have to do it, I don't care if there's 100 logos on the field or whatever. We'll do what we need to do because that's unfortunately the game you got to play now, right? In revenue sharing in this new era of college football, you have to have these guaranteed steady streams of revenue to ensure that you're going to be competitive. Now, again, money isn't everything. As I think we might see with Texas Tech this year, who has not been shy about throwing millions upon millions of dollars at every conceivable amount of talent that they possibly can, it's not always indicative of how successful you're going to be. But you have a better chance at being successful when you do have the resources to go out there and acquire top talent and all those kind of things. Because guess what? The more top talent you have, paired with good coaching, the more successful you have the opportunity to be. And look, I think you look at last year with what they brought in via the transfer portal and guys that, let's face it, we weren't over the moon excited about that came in. Sorry, I had to plug my headphones back in there. Over the moon excited about that came in, like a Kennard or a D Knight or even a Torricelli Simpkins. All those guys made their own respective impact in huge ways. Torricelli Simpkins was the best offensive lineman we had a year ago. Kyle Kennard, the results speak for themselves with the Nagurski Award. Demetrius Knight, high round draft pick as well. And there wasn't a ton of fanfare with all those guys. Kennard had decent success at Georgia Tech. D Knight's tape at Charlotte was impressive. But we were like, okay, translate over to the SEC. And Torricelli Simpkins, I think a lot of people were like, he's an FCS guy, an NC Central. Okay, well, let's see how you can hang in the SEC. And they all ended up being great. And that, to me, is scouting, where they looked at that talent and were able to say, hey, this is going to work here. and B, development, because there probably was an acclimation period for maybe the exception of Kennard, because he did play his entire career at Georgia Tech up to that point. There was probably an acclimation process when it came to Demetrius Knight, when it came to Torricelli Simpkins, that you give credit to the coaching staff for getting those guys in position and ready to play at this level of the SEC. So that's always going to be there. But again, you still need money and to be able to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, to be competitive. And having these streams of revenue like the Blanchard Machinery deal, even though we don't know the number figure, but sounds like it's pretty darn large, largest in the history of the athletics department, that helps you out. And that's money that you know is coming in that you can account for and bet on, or account for and use every single year. And again, where else do you go from here? And you got to give a tip of the cap to Jeremiah Donati for, fostering this deal and working this out to make this beneficial for the Athletic Association, to make this beneficial for football, because that's what he's brought in to do. His main objective coming in here was to give a facelift to the Athletic Association and allow it to go out and find these kind of things, to be successful, to help either set trends or be one of the first along to do this. There's only a handful of places across college football doing logos at the 25-yard line right now. I imagine in the next handful of years, it's probably going to skyrocket to pretty much everyone, because that is a free space on your field that I'm sure a lot of brands would be clamoring for. I think it's even better made when you have a brand, as you heard Coach Beamer talk about in his presser last hour, that has ties to the university, right? Where the people in the family are alumni, as the Blanchards are and always have been, from what it sounds like. So where it's not just, this big, huge corporation that you don't really know the personal side of, that just slaps their logo out there and goes from there. Like, no, these people, you can go to their place over in West Columbia. You know what I mean? Like, talk to these people about football, about Gamecocks, about South Carolina. You feel like you know them. You have that local connection, which, again, I think makes these kind of things easier on people. And we had some people in the text line bring that up as well. Like, hey, at least it's not, insert big corporation, Walmart or Target or something like that, that's just slapping their logo on and going. At least it's people that are local and have ties to the university that obviously make a lot of sense, and people that you are in the same community with. So again, that's we'll adjust. Again, that first game against SC State, yeah, maybe you're complaining about it then for just how it looks on the field. But by early to mid-October, when Alabama's here and Carolina's got them in a 4th and goal, when Carolina's leading by a point or two, and they got to get this stop to seal the game, you're not thinking about that on the field logo. You're thinking about the football that's being played in front of you. It eventually becomes normal. It eventually becomes part of it, and we, I guess, find the next thing to complain about. But no, I think it's a positive all the way around for the university, for football, for the athletics department, and hopefully it helps them continue to be successful for a very, very long time to come. South Carolina yesterday ranked 13th in the AP poll. We talked about it right at the jump of the show yesterday, because that's quite literally when the AP poll came out. And again, when you start to plug these numbers in and taking a look at schedules and those kind of things, South Carolina is always thought of to have one of the, if not the hardest schedules in the entire country every single year, just by virtue of being in the SEC and having a regular in-state rival opponent in Clemson that's always, at least in the past decade or so, been towards the top of college football. It makes your schedule that much harder. And Brett McMurphy, our favorite guy, Brett McMurphy, pointed this out yesterday. With most consecutive games versus the AP top 25 based on the preseason rankings, you have Oklahoma, who will play Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Tennessee in consecutive weeks, and South Carolina, who will play LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M in consecutive weeks. And then after you take on Coastal Carolina, you'll play Clemson, the number 4 team in the country, in that last week of the regular season. So in 6 of the last 7 games of the year, South Carolina will play a ranked opponent based on the preseason top 25. Now, again, that can change as the season goes along. Coastal Carolina could be good enough. Maybe that's a ranked versus ranked matchup at that point in time. But it highlights how difficult this schedule is going to be and how vastly important it is to get off to a good start. right? We've thrown out that number of, hey, you could start off 5-0, and that's a lot to ask, right? Especially with 3 of those being conference games and 4 of those games being against Power 4 opponents. Virginia Tech's not going to be a walk in the park. They're going to challenge you, as will Vanderbilt, as will Kentucky, as will Missouri, and that game's on the road, which makes that even more of a challenge. So I don't want to discredit any of those teams, but we have the faith that South Carolina is the better team in all those matchups, SC State as well, and should be able to win. Because if you do that and start off 5-0 for one, you may find yourself in the top 10 depending on what happens ahead of you. But 2, it opens you up for more wiggle room, I guess is the better way to put it, from, that 6th game all the way to the end of the regular season. And again, our hope is that they win every single game, go undefeated, and we never have to worry about losses. But I think, just being honest, with what the SEC is now with 16 teams and its top-to-bottom competitiveness, nobody, in my opinion, is going undefeated in the SEC. So you're going to lose some games. How many is up to you, and that determines your fate for the postseason. Because if you can be 5-0 and find a way to manage those last 7 games and only lose 2 of them, you're in a really good spot. And again, if you go 10-2 in the league, I think you're in the college football playoff regardless. But let's say you lose 3. I still think, depending on who the losses are against, who the wins are against, you could still make a solid argument, much like last year, that Carolina could be in that consideration for the college football playoff. And again, where these numbers are when we get there in terms of where teams are ranked and all those kind of things, subject to change. Now, you could look at a team like Oklahoma and say, hey, I don't think they're going to be very good and they won't be ranked by the time October 18th rolls around. Okay, that's fair. Ole Miss, don't know enough about them. Quarterback change, maybe they won't be ranked either. We'll see. But based off preseason rankings and perception, which right now that's all we can have to go off of for a lot of these teams, it looks like, once again, one of the toughest schedules in the entire country. And if you can survive it with 9 to 10 wins, you make a very compelling case for yourself to be in the college football playoff, which again would be a historical season for South Carolina if they are indeed able to pull that off. But again, you take all these with a grain of salt because it is just preseason rankings. And look, there's bound to be within the first 2-3 weeks of the season a team that we thought was really good, ranked somewhere in the top 25, that ends up stumbling out of the gate. And they're unranked, and we're saying, okay, there's your bust for the year. There's your next Florida State or whatever it may be. Hopefully Carolina's not that team, obviously. But we know as college football fans, that's just kind of how these things happen. And, to not put everything investment-wise into what the preseason projectors are saying, especially in today's day and age of college sports. We'll get into a little bit of what Beamer had to say coming up next. In that presser, got some of the cuts pulled from the last hour as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head, Ed Bird producing on the other side of the glass on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you, Captain Ed Bird along with us, producing on the other side of the glass. By the way, coming up at 2:30, earlier on this morning, myself and Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark, we had Paul Strelo on from Tiger Illustrated talking about that team in the upstate that is number 4 in the AP poll, and obviously going to be another tough challenge for South Carolina this year as they come into Williams-Brice Stadium. And Carolina, who again has won the last 2 games up there in the upstate, looks to hopefully get their lick back here at home. So we'll get some insight into what's going on with them as they navigate their way through camp ahead of a very tough Week 1 challenge themselves as they take on the LSU Tigers in a top 10 showdown up there at Memorial Stadium. First, I want to get into some of the things Coach Beamer talked about an hour ago in his weekly presser. Again, there's no huge news coming out when it comes to this team in camp right now. It's very much status quo. Obviously, don't want to hear about any major injuries or those kind of things, which sounds like they are. Everything's good. Everybody's in good shape with that, other than the names that Beamer basically said at the beginning of camp that weren't going to be out there anytime soon. But one key part of this offseason, one key storyline of this offseason is the development of Lenore Sellers and getting better overall. And I'll get cut number, let's see here, 6, because this is Coach Beamer talking in the presser last hour about the team being better at situational football, and he does talk about Lenore Sellers in here as well.
I would think situational football, and that's mainly just because Lenoris is a little bit older. Not a little bit. He is older than what he was last year. He's a year older. So, yeah, he knew that. But, in the afternoon, so we practice in the mornings, and then there's a break now that our players have where the coaches go and watch tape. And then in the afternoons, we do a walkthrough at 4. We start meeting, we do a special teams meeting and offense, defense meetings around 4. And then about 5:20, we have a walkthrough in the indoor that we do for about 45 minutes. And we always finish up the walkthrough each day with some sort of situational football aspect. And there were some days last year where having a new quarterback, whether it be Lenoris or Robbie, and it's their first time going through a lot of those scenarios. There were a couple of walkthroughs where I blew a gasket last year, and because it wasn't getting operated and we didn't make good decisions. Not that we're perfect, myself included, because you're always learning and trying to be better in those situations. We did something today that clockwise that, I learned from as well. But I think we're so much farther along from that standpoint where Lenoris goes out there and we do the same thing that we did last year, and it's just, and he's just a machine at it. And Luke, really good. And, they remembered that walkthrough last year didn't go as well. And Luke kind of grabbed me afterwards. He's like, we got your back this year, Coach. Like, we're good. We're so much farther along. And he's right. We spent a lot of time on it, just like last year. And we spent so much time talking about it throughout the season. I think we're farther along, at least at the quarterback position. Now, you still got freshman receivers and freshman defensive backs that haven't done that. But at least when your quarterback is more experienced, it goes a long way.
And that's something that obviously makes a lot of sense. Lenore Sellers is a year older than he was this time last year, but just having that experience under your belt, right, when it comes to situations and things that you've already encountered once, twice, however many times in your college career now. Because, again, we had high expectations and high hopes for him going into his first year as a starter, but we couldn't deny the fact that, he'd never started a game before. Yeah, he played a little bit in 2023 in garbage time, against either teams with just lesser talent in general or a team that either wasn't very good or you're just playing backups against another team late in the game, like Vanderbilt or whatever. So there was a lot for him to learn in year number 1, which, again, you saw several times last year where he got himself in a little bit of trouble or made a mistake or whatever. And it's not making the mistake, it's learning from the mistake, right? Saying, okay, I did this wrong. How do I go about doing that better? How do I go about making sure I don't make that same mistake again and putting myself or putting my team in a tough position? That's all part of the development process. It's all part of getting better, getting older, getting wiser, and those kind of things. And again, that's things you like to hear, not only from the Lenore Sellers standpoint, but this entire team in terms of getting better at situational football and understanding those moments where you're not panicking, saying, oh, no, I've never been here before. What do I do? Looking toward the coaches and all those kind of things. The best kind of quarterbacks know how to handle those situations by themselves. Again, you still have the coaches there, obviously, but being able to understand the moment, not make the mistake, not do something dumb or wrong, they get yourself and your team in trouble in those situations is obviously hopefully going to go a long way in this team being successful this upcoming year. As well as if we have cut number 8 in there already, also Coach Beamer talking about what he saw from that first scrimmage the other day that impressed him.
Offense didn't turn the ball over. That was good. I look back at my notes from last year. They didn't turn the ball over in that scrimmage last year either. Now, y'all heard me talk about we did in the season some, but that was good to have. I mean, we got, I think, 117 plays in the other night, and the year before that scrimmage was 108, I believe. So we got more plays, and there were no turnovers. Now, there were some plays, some throws where receivers got their hands on the throw and probably should have been an interception, but they weren't able to finish the catch. So that's good. I think when you can go in there and have 117 plays and not turn the ball over, that's a start, because we know how important turnover margin is in college football. And then just seeing young guys make plays. I thought we punted the ball well in there. We did some good things from a special teams standpoint, and then seeing young guys being in the stadium for the first time and handling that environment.
Here's your double-edged sword when it comes to things like scrimmages. It's great that the offense didn't turn the ball over. Why is the defense not generating turnovers? Oh, no. Is this defense not going to be able to take the ball away? Which, again, you saw last year. He said that in last year's scrimmage, the offense didn't turn the ball over either, and they ended up obviously having a problem with that during the season, and that defense didn't generate any takeaways, and they did a pretty good job of generating those as season went along. So that doesn't tell us anything, but Beamer highlights there the importance of managing your turnovers this year. And look, nobody's going to go through a season completely unscathed. Nobody's not going to turn the ball over. You're going to have a bad throw. You're going to have a tip ball. You're going to have a ball that gets knocked out in a weird way. You're going to have turnovers. It's just minimizing them as much as you possibly can to put yourself in the best position to succeed. I look at this week number 1 game against Virginia Tech, where I don't think skill-wise they match up with South Carolina offensively. But here's the thing. If South Carolina starts turning the ball over and giving them short fields of, 35, 40, 45 yards, making life easier on them, that's how you can lose that game. Now, I hope that doesn't happen, obviously, but that's how those kind of things can go wrong if you're not careful. And that's another thing, part of the development process for LaNorris Sellers, making good decisions, which, I mean, it's not like he was erratic throwing the football last year. Yeah, he threw some interceptions, but it was rarely anything that was like, oh, my God, that was ugly. He threw the thing to triple coverage. What the heck was he thinking? If anything, it was when he's carrying the ball, making sure that he's hanging on to that thing high and tight and not putting it in his harm's way, because, again, we're looking at him as really controlling the flow of this offense, especially early in the season, to kind of figure out what you have around him, receiver, tight end, and running back especially. So he's maybe going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting early, and you can't, as that guy, be handing the ball to the other team and expecting to win. So hopefully that's something that they cut down on this year, as, again, the defense has always done a fine job taking the ball away, and I'm not worried about that. It's the offense and making sure that they don't put it in harm's way that does concern me. But, again, from what Beamer said, at least, so far so good as they're making way through camp and through scrimmages. Again, earlier today, we talked to Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll get some insight into what he had to say about the number 4 Clemson Tigers and how tough of a challenge that's going to be for South Carolina coming up in November. Coming up next as the halftime show rolls along, Tyler Head, Captain Ed Bird at Master Control on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Let's head to the upstate and get a glimpse at the number 4 in yesterday's AP poll, Clemson Tigers. Joining us down the AAA Heating and Air phone lines is Paul Strelo from Tiger Illustrated. Paul, first of all, appreciate you taking your time for us this morning. Number 4, too high, too low, just right? What's your thoughts on where the Tigers are ranked yesterday?
Well, I think that's probably about right on paper. I think looking at them, they're a top 10 team. Where they sort out there in the end remains to be seen. But they've got as much, star power on offense coming back as anybody, toward the top there, other than, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. But generally, I think they've got more recognized names, fewer question marks, and they were, personnel that had to be addressed in the offseason. So I think that is a fair starting point. But, to me, you can put them anywhere in 4 to 7, 8, and that's probably a reasonable judgment.
Hey, Paul, it's Wes. Appreciate you hopping on, man. Hope you're doing well. Speaking of question marks, where are they, if any? Is there any area of this roster that still on paper kind of remains a question for you as we get ready to kick this thing off in a few weeks?
Oh, I think there are plenty of question marks going in. I just think they have more, they have more names that coming back. But, the last game we saw, Clemson did not really try to run the ball at all because they didn't, the guy they handed the ball off to the most was a guy who had been playing receiver days earlier. So there is question about what their running game will look like. But I think, Adam Randall has in camp looked very good. And that could be somewhat surprising, and it is an unconventional move to take a huge receiver and pluck him back there, and suddenly are you going to get a Bo Scarborough type of guy running back there. But from what we've seen in drills and from what people have seen during scrimmages, so far so good. I mean, will he be a star? I think that's to be determined, but I think that what people have seen so far is that he is good enough and could be pretty good. Back end, I think there remain question marks a bit for Clemson at safety. I think they, as late last season rolled on, generally, things went haywire for the defense across the board. But back end for the defense has never really emphasized athleticism. And so I think there's some questions back there. And can they bring a Ronan Hannafin and Ricardo Jones along quick enough to be there with a Khalil Barnes back at safety for a team that plays 3 pretty much all the time in its base defense. So I think there are some lingering questions about how good they will be or can they be ready in time for the important games with LSU, Georgia Tech coming up early. I think that I think what they've shown in this camp is there's been a large question mark generally based on what you've seen from the defense last year on will they tackle, fit run gaps better, those things. I think we will see that kind of improvement through the course of the defense. For me, the biggest question is as much expectation is on this offense, given the recognized names in Klubnik, the legit talent they have at receiver, can they produce at the level that meets expectations? Because that's not where they were when we saw them the final games of last year. This isn't an offense that is just thrown up 35-40 with ease. They've had their struggles. And so I think that maybe expectations for the offense somewhat exceed what is probably realistic based on what we've seen.
Paul, it's Chris. Thanks again for taking time, man. To kind of piggyback off that, let's talk a little bit about Cade Klubnik and the next step for him. One of the book on him has been playmaker, has elite talent. Like we saw it against Texas, right? Like dropping the ball all over the field in a bucket. The running ability, which we saw in the South Carolina game, but we saw on the other side of the South Carolina game, the critical mistakes. Like, is that the next step for him, is just trying to eliminate some of those head-scratching mistakes? And then also, if you can, loop it into the same answer here. Matt Luke's done a really good job with the offensive line. Those will obviously work in concert. How do you feel about that group?
Yeah, I think with Klubnik, I think there is more of I think he did a fairly good job last year of eradicating the mistakes. And I think the numbers tend to show it. But I think in doing that in various stretches, he lost some aggression. And I think where you've seen Klubnik be his best later in the year is when he kind of threw some caution to the wind, and there was more of a 2-minute drill, gunslinger type mentality where he was going for it. Now there will be mistakes here and there within that, and obviously the South Carolina one will jump out. But even against Texas, when he was best was when they threw caution to the wind and started letting it rip some. And so I think finding that balance for him on, I think, his play callers and just generally the offensive direction on, I think, a Dabo Swinney tenet for many years has almost been, when you get a lead, playing not to lose. And I think that Clemson has shown its best under Klubnik when they've played on the front foot a little more. And so I think probably getting comfort in that direction, from Swinney on down will bring out a better Klubnik there. I mean, he's more prepared. His arm strength has grown through the years. There's a lot he had to improve, but I think improving the dynamics around him and kind of maybe, this is a year where you put more on his plate than has been there before. And so that is the next progression is being less puppeteer there and kind of letting him go try and make some plays. Within that context, the offensive line is a significant piece to that puzzle. I don't think that Clemson is going to have a dominant offensive line, but this is the first time in a while they've had a truly seasoned where you can go 7 guys who should play at a pretty good level and give you what you want. So they've got veterans there who should not get him creamed and should feel more comfortable than 2 years ago being the opposite extreme where, whether it's Klubnik or Uiagalelei before him, did not have the protection, security that he should have this year. I think there's reason to feel good if you're Clemson that you've got guys in there who can play at a winning level against the better teams, to be able to match up better with what you'll see against LSU's front or early on or some of the better ones they will face a long time. I think it does open things up for the quarterback that some luxuries that they have not had before.
Talking to Paul Streetlow of Tiger Illustrated on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. One of the biggest coaching acquisitions of the offseason was nabbing Tom Allen from Penn State. What have you seen and what is changing potentially about this defense's upcoming year with him at the helm?
I think the number one thing you jump to is presence. And Wes Goodwin, certainly knows 10 times the football that I did and was groomed in the Venable system. And so it's not to say that he is not a good football coach, but, it starts at the top. And so I think every team takes on the identity of its leader. And so I think you saw that the defense kind of lose some of its edge, some of its aggression, some of its persona through the last couple of years. I think what you've seen Allen bring is an intensity kind of day in, day out that's genuine to who he is. You could try faking it probably if you were Wes Goodwin, but it's not the same. I think there is an intensity you see and an accountability in what they do that you've seen kind of bleed over, and a lot of these are the same players that Clemson had last year, but I think you're going to see a collective difference in who they are defensively based off of it. I think they are going to be much more solid in what they do, and I think Clemson will get back to being the defense we saw several years ago. That was, there have been some structural and philosophical changes, but just generally as a more attacking, get up the field kind of defense that is more disruptive. I think you see Clemson get back to that identity.
Paul, about a minute and a half till we got a hard break here. I saw a couple of your articles talking about 5 players who have raised their stock. Maybe if you can, throw us a guy or two who maybe hasn't gotten enough love yet, but people need to be talking about.
Randall was an obvious one there. But if you're looking offensively, I think there was no real running back number 2 kind of coming into the year. And I think David Iziamume has done a pretty good job here of maybe exceeding expectations in camp, kind of showing he's more of a gamer than what you see in practice. So I think his progression has been a favorable development for Clemson there as far as having options. Defensively, I think they've raised the tide for some younger backups, some second string types, a Brandon Strozier who didn't look very good in the spring game. Some questions about what Clemson's going to do behind its top 2 to 3 corners. I think he has injected himself into the conversation. I think Jaheim Lawson, a 4th-year kid from Daniel, who's Shaq Lawson's brother, has up to 260 pounds, and while he's not going to compete with Will Helt for the transfer for the one starting defensive end job, I think he has made further strides into becoming a more reliable guy who is going to get 30 snaps a game, and you can depend on him more to be less of a situational pass rush guy and be more of a 3-down end. I think you've seen some depth. Probably some advancements with depth have been the bigger story through camp.
Here's Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated. We appreciate you taking your time and excited for the season. I think we're all going to be locked into that Week 1 matchup with Clemson and LSU there.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll get back into the Blanchard Machinery of announcement from yesterday coming up next here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you, wrapping up today's show. Ed Burr producing on the other side of the glass. Appreciate him filling in. I believe we get Dave back tomorrow, if I remember correctly. We did actually have to next week. Okay, Dave's out for the rest of the week. Which, you know what? That's good. Dave deserves some days off. We'll get him back next week as we've worked him really, really hard as of late. But anyway, before I get to this last thing here, I do want to remind you about the game's Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as The Nest in the Vista. Coming up a week from Friday over at Charlotte Golf Club in West Columbia. As I've been telling you, tee time's at 9. Registration begins at 7:30. Going to have the onion sausages for breakfast, as well as a mimosa bar from Saki's Wine and Spirits, as well as Firehouse Subs for lunch. Prizes to give away. Golf Gun makes its return. We want to see you out there. Give Charlotte a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up. It's only $400 per team. Again, 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up for the Games Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms. I played this earlier, but I feel like it's worth revisiting because I and Chris and I talked about it earlier on this morning. I had a pretty glaring omission that a lot of you corrected me on with the Firehouse Subs text line. So the clip I'm about to play is Kirby Smart on the Marty and McGee show. I'm assuming this was cut at Media Days, and they've been filtering out the content since then, but was asked about what happens when he goes through drive-thrus. Does he give his name? Here's what Kirby Smart had to say.
What happens when you go through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru and it's Kirby Smart ordering a damn peach shake from Chick-fil-A?
Worst thing about those places, they want your name. And right when I pull up, they go, "Can I get a name for the order?" And I always give my son's name or my wife's name or something. If they're with me, somebody else. You know, I don't like giving my own name because then I get into another conversation.
They still know who you
are. The best is
are.
when they have no clue. That is the best. That is honestly the best.
You ever mess with them?
No.
What do you think about that Georgia coach, man? I think you ought to run the damn ball.
Yeah. They ain't usually into that at Chick-fil-A. They're not worried about that. They're trying to get you through there quick.
They do, that's right.
Here's your peach milkshake. Why didn't you run the ball on that third down? Keep it going. Yeah.
So, again, that's Kirby Smart on Marty and McGee. And I posed the question earlier, how many other coaches in the SEC are trying to not be noticed? And look, I've been around Kirby in Athens. He is not somebody that tries to command the spotlight. He tries to keep as low profile as possible, even though that's pretty impossible considering his status there, obviously. And that's the case for a lot of coaches in the SEC. But I posed the question of, would any coaches actually want that spotlight? And Chris pushed back and said, no, most coaches probably try and maintain that low profile, which I thought was fair. So then I asked the question of, okay, what coaches in the SEC could be very anonymous within their respective towns their teams currently exist in? Because everybody knows what Kirby looks like in Athens. Everybody knows what Shane looks like here in Columbia, though I feel like Shane can, as much as he's out in the community, I feel like it's not a problem. You know, I'm sure people ask him for autographs and pictures and stuff like that, but he's open to those kind of things, and I don't feel like anybody, like, harasses him in the process of doing that. But there was one coach that I didn't think of that a lot of you, and I appreciate you guys weighing in the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100, that can exist within their own city and probably live a pretty normal life without getting recognized a lot, at least for now. And that's Clark Lee at Nashville. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Because, yeah, Brian Kelly and Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze, all these guys, they can't go to the local grocery store without getting recognized. Clark Lee might be able to, right? For one, Nashville is a big city. Nashville is a very touristy type of city. So the people in there aren't your everyday Nashvillians or Nashvillans or whatever we call them, or even students at Vanderbilt that may recognize them. So Clark Lee, and again, I appreciate everybody waiting on the Firehouse Subs text line. Clark Lee might legitimately be the one coach in the SEC that can go about his life more normal than possible without getting recognized left and right. Now, I say that for now because, and again, they're on the Netflix series, and we got to see a little bit more of an in-depth look at his life. And if Vanderbilt can be more successful than they were a year ago, with Diego Pavia at quarterback and all that kind of stuff, maybe that's not the case anymore. But for the time being, Clark Lee can, I think, enjoy anonymity for the most part, outside of, maybe on campus and things like that. But, he can probably go to a bar in downtown Nashville and maybe only be recognized by a couple of people. And again, kind of just be unassuming for the most part. If he wants to, I don't know, maybe he commands attention and wants to be in the spotlight. Doesn't seem like that kind of guy, but maybe I could be wrong about that. But either way, again, fun exercise to go through the thoughts on that. Appreciate y'all weighing in on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. 100. That'll do it for the Tuesday halftime show. Again, appreciate Ed Bird producing on the other side of the glass. Coming next, Jay and Terry for the postgame show. I'm sure they'll have plenty to say about what Beamer talked about in his presser earlier on today as well. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. That's halftime show here on the game.